Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, everyone. We've got some seriously fascinating source material to look at today, tackling what's probably one of the most urgent tech challenges we're facing right now. I mean, we are all watching artificial intelligence just evolve at breakneck speed, right? But there is this massive gap between a really cool experiment and a dependable tool. So, how do we actually build an infrastructure based on verifiable truth? Well, that is exactly what we are mapping out today, breaking down the exact requirements needed to make this leap. Here is the core question directly from our source material to kick things off. How does AI evolve from an experimental technology into dependable infrastructure? Think about that for a second. An experiment is something you test in a lab. If it fails, well, you just tweak the formula. No big deal. But infrastructure? Infrastructure is the bridge you drive your car across. You literally have to be able to trust it implicitly. The source material outlines the blueprint for transforming AI into something we can actually rely on, and it all starts with the data. Section 1. The 4 data pillars. So the first requirement here is transparent provenance. It's kind of like, well, imagine you're buying a super valuable painting. You demand the official paperwork and the whole history of where it came from, right? Annie needs that exact same thing. It requires an absolute, visible trail showing exactly where its data was born. If an AI model is learning from or acting on a piece of information, there has to be a completely transparent record of its origin, period. Let's move to the next one and see how this builds. Pillar 2 is verifiable metadata. Now, the text stresses a really critical keyword here, and that's verifiable. It is not enough for data to just have some descriptions or tags slapped onto it. No way. We actually have to be able to mathematically or systematically prove that the metadata attached is absolutely true. And that brings us to pillar 3, which is contributor accountability. Look, data doesn't just magically appear out of thin air, right? Someone has to actually feed the machine. And let's be totally honest here, left to its own devices, the internet isn't exactly a Michelin star chef when it comes to serving up reliable facts. In this new infrastructure, if you are feeding the AI, you have to stand behind the quality of that food. There are real stakes involved for the people and entities supplying this foundational knowledge. Which leads perfectly into our final pillar, economic incentives tied to accuracy. Because how do you actually enforce that accountability we just talked about? You link it to economics. The text notes that financial or economic rewards in this system literally have to be tied to the exactness and accuracy of the information provided. It's a beautifully simple concept derived from the text. You provide accurate, verifiable data, you get economically rewarded. The incentives are just perfectly aligned with the truth. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole macro perspective of the source text. If you implement these pieces separately, just transparent provenance or just accountability, sure, that improves data systems. It makes things a bit better. But when you combine them together, as the text argues, it creates a massive paradigm shift. It builds an entirely new infrastructure of verifiable truth. It goes from being just a simple software update to a fundamental shift in how information is valued. Section 2. The economy of truth. Now, what's really interesting about this quote is the author's framing. An economy where truth becomes valuable infrastructure. They're pointing out this huge structural shift. Truth isn't just some philosophical concept anymore, or a nice little feature to have. Truth itself is being treated as a foundational, highly valuable asset. Just like our roads, power grids, or fiber optic cables, verifiable truth actually becomes the very infrastructure that the next generation of technology is built upon. Section 3. The Codatta shift. Directly quoting from our source here, that's the shift Codatta is building toward. The text is directly attributing this incredibly ambitious vision of a new verifiable data economy to this specific organization. They are the ones actually putting these 4 pillars, provenance, verifiable metadata, accountability, and economic incentives, into practice to build this exact infrastructure of truth we've been talking about. Section 4. Dependable AI infrastructure. Okay, so the text details 3 very specific, future-looking scenarios here. First, we enter a world where contributors are actually rewarded for reliability, which totally changes the entire dynamic of how data is sourced. Second, AI systems fundamentally change their behavior. They inspect the trustworthiness of their inputs before acting. Just imagine an AI hitting pause and checking the receipts before it confidently gives you an answer. And third, autonomous agents, the AI taking action on your behalf, will operate on verifiable information. Honestly, what you should take away from this explainer is that these 3 points are exactly what separates a novelty toy from a tool you can genuinely trust with your life or your business. So, the crucial point is contrasting the old way against the new standard. On one hand, we have the risky way autonomous agents often operate today, which is based on blind assumptions, sometimes literally hallucinating facts because they scrape bad data off the web. But on the other hand, we have the proposed new standard of absolute verification, verifiable information. The text makes it incredibly clear that moving from those blind assumptions to verifiable information is literally the only way AI becomes truly dependable.
We've seen the 4 pillars, we've explored this concept of a truth economy, and we've looked at the shift Codatta is working toward to replace those blind assumptions with verified facts. So I want to leave you with a thought directly inspired by the final sentence of our source text today. What happens when AI is finally dependable infrastructure people can actually rely on? Just imagine a world where the AI running our logistics, our healthcare, our daily tasks never acts on a blind assumption again, because the absolute truth is baked right into the infrastructure. It changes absolutely everything. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the data.